The night was cold, and the city lights flickered like restless fireflies against the darkness. In the heart of the bustling streets, the aroma of freshly fried noodles drifted through the air, mixing with the faint scent of rain. A small roadside stall stood under a crooked street lamp, its humble setup glowing warmly as people lined up for a late-night meal. Behind the sizzling wok, a young woman worked tirelessly, her delicate hands moving with practiced speed as she tossed noodles and vegetables together, the flames briefly illuminating her tired yet determined face. Her name was Su Ning. To the world, she was just another single mother trying to make ends meet. But there was a quiet strength in her eyes, the kind of resolve that only comes from being pushed to the edge and fighting her way back. Every night, after putting her little boy to bed in their cramped apartment, she came to this corner to cook and sell noodles. The money wasn't much, but it was honest work, and it kept her son, Zhaola, fed and clothed. Across the city, in a high-rise office with floor-to-ceiling windows, the CEO of Chen Enterprises stood staring down at the streets below. Li Ziyan was a man feared by many and admired by even more. Known for his sharp mind, ruthless decisions, and cold demeanor, he had built his empire brick by brick, never allowing himself to be distracted by anything or anyone. The media called him a stone-hearted CEO, and he didn't care. To Li Ziyan, emotions were a weakness. He especially despised a certain type of woman, the ones who acted sweet and fragile, pretending to be delicate flowers in need of saving. He had been burned once before, fooled by a woman who wore innocence like a mask, while scheming behind his back. Since then, he made a silent vow never to fall for such a trap again. To him, love was nothing but a distraction, and he was determined to keep his heart locked away. But fate has a strange sense of humor. That night, Li Ziyan's car broke down not far from Su Ning's noodle stall. Frustrated and tired after a long day of meetings, he decided to step out and walk while waiting for his driver to send a replacement car. As he passed the dimly lit street, the smell of food caught his attention. It was strangely comforting, tugging at something deep in his memory, a time long ago when life felt simpler. Against his better judgment, he stopped. Su Ning didn't notice him at first. She was too busy stirring the noodles, her brows furrowed in concentration. But when he stepped closer, the faint sound of his expensive leather shoes on the pavement made her glance up. For a moment, their eyes met hers wide with surprise, his cold and unreadable. "Are you still open?" he asked, his deep voice cutting through the night air. Su Ning nodded quickly, wiping her hands on her apron. "Yes. What would you like?" Li Ziyan hesitated. He wasn't even hungry, but there was something about her, maybe it was the exhaustion she tried so hard to hide, or the faint smile she forced onto her lips. Despite it, he found himself saying, "One serving, whatever you recommend." As she cooked, Su Ning stole quick glances at him. His tailored suit and expensive watch made him look out of place here, like a king visiting a peasant village. Yet there was no arrogance in the way he stood there, quietly watching her work. "Here you go," she said softly, handing him a steaming bowl of noodles. He took a bite and froze. It was incredible. The flavors were simple yet rich, reminding him of the home-cooked meals he hadn't tasted in years. Something stirred inside him, a warmth he didn't expect. "How much?" he asked. 15 yuan, Su Ning replied. He pulled out a crisp 100 yuan note and placed it on the counter. "Keep the change." Her eyes widened. "But that's too much. Consider it payment for making the best noodles I've had in a long time," he said before she could protest further. Then, without another word, he turned and walked away, disappearing into the night. Su Ning stood there for a moment, staring at the money in her hand. She didn't know who that man was, but something about him felt different, dangerous even. What she didn't know was that this small encounter would change her life forever. Li Ziyan couldn't stop thinking about her as he sat in his replacement car. He didn't even know why. She was nothing like the women he usually met. There was no pretense in her eyes, no hidden agenda, just quiet strength and determination. But he shook the thought away. She was a street vendor, and he was the CEO of a multi-billion-dollar company. Their worlds didn't intersect, or so he thought. The next night, as Su Ning prepared her stall, a sleek black car stopped across the street. Her heart skipped a beat. As the same man from before stepped out, his presence commanding even in the soft glow of the street lights. "Did you come for noodles again?" she asked, surprised. Li Zian's lips curved into a faint, rare smile. Maybe. Or maybe I came to see the woman behind the noodles. Before Su Ning could respond, a small voice called out from behind her. Mama, I'm thirsty. Su Ning spun around in shock. Zhaola had woken up and wandered out of the apartment above the shop, clutching his little toy in his hand. Li Zian's gaze shifted from Su Ning to the child, and something flickered in his eyes, an emotion he didn't recognize. Was she married? Why did that thought bother him so much? Su Ning quickly scooped up her son. I'm sorry, he's not supposed to be out here. Please excuse us. But as she turned to go, Li Zian found himself blurting out, Are you married? The question hung in the air, heavy and unexpected. Su Ning paused, tightening her grip on Zhaola. Her heart pounded as she looked back at him. Unsure how to answer, what she said next would either push him away forever or pull him into a world he never expected to enter. And for the first time in years, Li Zian didn't feel in control. Su Ning stood frozen for a moment, clutching Zhaola close to her chest. The man's question hung in the air, making her heart beat faster. Are you married? His voice was calm, but there was a strange intensity in his eyes, as if the answer mattered more to him than he wanted to admit. No, she replied softly. I'm not married. Li Zian's gaze lingered on her for a second longer before he nodded slightly, as though the answer satisfied some unspoken question in his mind. Su Ning turned quickly, carrying her son inside and telling herself not to overthink it. He was just a customer, an unusual one, but still a customer. She didn't have time to get distracted. Her life was already complicated enough. Back in her small apartment above the stall, Zhaola curled up on their worn-out mattress. Mama, who was that uncle? He asked sleepily. Just someone buying noodles, Su Ning whispered, brushing his hair gently. Don't worry about him. But even as she said it, her own thoughts refused to let go of the man in the expensive suit. She had seen all kinds of people pass by her stall, students, office workers, even small-time businessmen, but never someone like him. There was a heaviness in his eyes, a coldness that didn't feel entirely natural. The next few nights passed quietly. Su Ning tried to focus on her work and on caring for Zhaola. She didn't expect to see him again. Men like him didn't return to places like this. But on the fourth night, as she was setting up her stall, the sleek black car pulled up once more. Her hands froze around the ladle as she watched him step out, dressed perfectly as always, his expression unreadable. You're back, she said before she could stop herself. Your noodles were worth coming back for, he replied simply, though his eyes stayed locked on her as he spoke. Su Ning forced a polite smile and began cooking, but inside she felt uneasy. Why was he coming back? And why did his presence make her nervous in a way she couldn't explain? This time, he didn't leave immediately after eating. He lingered near the stall, watching her work. You do this every night? He asked suddenly. Yes. It's the only time I can, after looking after my son during the day. You work hard, he said. There was no mocking in his tone, just quiet observation. It's the only way to survive, she replied, her voice soft but steady. Li Zian didn't respond. He watched her for a while longer before leaving, but not before slipping another large bill onto the counter. Days turned into weeks, and he kept coming back. Sometimes he ate in silence. Other times, he asked her small questions about her life. At first, Su Ning kept her answers brief. She didn't want to get too close, but as time passed, she found herself opening up in small ways. She told him about Zhaola, how he was only 5 and already loved drawing superheroes. She spoke about her struggles, how she'd once dreamed of being a chef in a big restaurant, but life hadn't turned out that way. Her parents had passed away years ago, and Zhaola's father had abandoned them before the boy was even born. He left when he found out I was pregnant, Su Ning said quietly one night, her hands gripping the wok handle tighter. Since then, it's just been me and Zhaola. Li Zian didn't say anything for a long time. Then he spoke in a low voice. Men like that don't deserve a family. There was something in the way he said it, bitterness, perhaps even pain. Su Ning glanced at him curiously, but didn't press further. What she didn't know was that Li Zian's past wasn't as clean as the sharp suits he wore. Years ago, his mother had suffered in silence under the weight of a broken marriage. His father, a powerful businessman, had abandoned them for another woman, leaving her to raise Li Zian alone. It was her struggles and her eventual tragic death that hardened him against the world. He had sworn never to trust love or weakness again, But now, watching Su Ning work tirelessly every night to give her son a better life, cracks began to form in the walls he had built around his heart. She wasn't like the women he despised, the ones who pretended to be fragile while hiding their schemes. She was real, strong, unapologetically herself. As their nightly interactions grew longer, gossip began to spread. Some of Su Ning's regular customers started whispering about the handsome man in the luxury car who visited her stall. Do you think she's trying to hook a rich man? One woman murmured. She must have her ways, another replied with a knowing smirk. Su Ning heard the whispers and felt her cheeks burn. She didn't want this kind of attention. Her life was already hard enough without people assuming she was after a man's money. That night, she confronted Li Zian. You shouldn't keep coming here, she said firmly. He looked surprised. Why? People are talking. They think I'm trying to take advantage of you. Do you care what they think? He asked calmly. I have to, she replied. I have a child. I can't have people looking at me like that. For the first time, she saw a flicker of hurt in his expression, but it vanished as quickly as it appeared. I don't care what they say, he said softly. And you shouldn't either. But Su Ning shook her head. You don't understand. You live in a different world. People like me, we can't afford to be careless. Before he could respond, a loud crash came from across the street. A drunk man had knocked over a stack of crates and was stumbling toward them. Su Ning tensed as the man approached her stall, his eyes glazed and a cruel smirk on his face. Hey, pretty lady, the drunk slurred. Give me some noodles. For free. I'm sorry, sir, Su Ning said cautiously. I can't do that. The man slammed his hand on the counter, making Zhaola, who had come down from the apartment to play, flinch in fear. Don't you know how to treat a customer? The drunk barked. Before Su Ning could react, Li Zian stepped forward. His expression was icy, his voice sharp enough to cut through steel. Leave, now. The drunk man sneered. And who are you? Her boyfriend? Rich men like you think you can. He didn't get to finish. Li Zian grabbed him by the collar and pushed him back with surprising force. Touch her or her son, and I'll make sure you regret it. The drunk man, suddenly sober with fear, staggered away muttering curses under his breath. Su Ning stared at Li Zian in shock. You didn't have to do that, she whispered. Yes, I did, he said firmly, his eyes burning with an emotion she couldn't name. For the first time, Su Ning realized just how dangerous and protective this man could be. And for the first time, Li Zian realized he couldn't walk away from her even if he wanted to. But neither of them knew that someone had been watching from the shadows across the street. Someone who would stop at nothing to ruin both of their lives. The quiet life Su Ning had built for her son was about to be shattered. And Li Zian would be forced to choose between his carefully guarded heart and the woman who had unknowingly stolen it. The night air felt heavier than usual. Su Ning couldn't shake off the feeling that someone was watching her as she packed up her noodle stall. Li Zian had stayed longer than he usually did, sitting quietly on the side as Zhaola played with a little toy car he'd bought him. For a moment, everything had felt strangely normal, almost like a small family sharing a peaceful evening together. But deep down, Su Ning knew their worlds weren't meant to collide. As she closed the stall and prepared to carry her supplies upstairs, she noticed a black car parked a little way down the street. Its engine was running, but no one seemed to be inside. A chill ran down her spine. Go ahead, I'll carry the rest, Li Zian said softly. Noticing her distracted expression, she nodded, forcing a small smile, and led Zhaola upstairs. But just as she reached the door, the sound of hurried footsteps made her spin around. 3 men had emerged from the shadows, their faces hidden under caps. Before she could react, one of them grabbed her arm, yanking her back. Su Ning, right? The tallest one sneered. You've been getting too close to someone you shouldn't, Zhaola cried out, clinging to her leg. Mama, let her go. Li Zian's voice boomed from behind, filled with a rage Su Ning had never heard before. The men turned just as Li Zian charged at them. In seconds, he had shoved one to the ground and grabbed another by the collar, slamming him against the wall. Do you know who I am? Li Zian hissed, his eyes blazing. If you touch her again, I'll ruin everything you've ever known. The men hesitated, realizing they had picked the wrong fight. They scrambled to their feet and ran, disappearing into the darkness. Su Ning stood frozen, clutching Zhaola tightly. Her heart raced, not just from fear, but from the sight of this powerful man who was supposed to hate vulnerability. Risking Everything for her. Lizayan turned to her, his expression softening as he looked at Zhaola's tear-streaked face. Are you two okay? He asked gently. Yes, Su Ning whispered, though her hands were still trembling. But why would someone do this? Li Ziyan hesitated. He had a good idea who was behind it. His business rivals had been trying to hurt him for years. Perhaps they thought targeting Su Ning would shake him. He realized, with a sinking feeling, that they weren't entirely wrong. You're in danger because of me, he said after a long pause. I should have stayed away. Su Ning shook her head. This isn't your fault. You saved us. He stepped closer, his voice low but filled with emotion. I can protect you, Su Ning, but only if you let me. For a moment, she couldn't speak. Her entire life, she had been the one protecting others, her son, herself. She had never imagined anyone stepping in for her. Why? She asked finally. Why would you go this far for me? Because you're not like anyone else, he said simply. And I don't want to lose you. Tears pricked her eyes as his words sank in. Over the next few days, everything changed. Li Ziyan used his influence to find out who had sent the men. It turned out to be a rival CEO, hoping to tarnish his reputation by creating a scandal with Su Ning. Li Ziyan made sure that man would never touch his world or hers again. But protecting her wasn't enough. One evening, he came to her small apartment, holding a small box in his hand. Zhaola was coloring in the corner, humming to himself. I've never said this to anyone before, Li Ziyan began, his voice unsteady. But you and Zhaola, you've shown me a kind of strength I didn't know existed. You've changed me. Su Ning's heart pounded as he opened the box to reveal a delicate ring. I know I don't deserve you, he continued, but if you'll have me, I want to spend my life protecting you both. Su Ning's eyes filled with tears. For years, she had been alone, believing that love was a luxury she couldn't afford. Yet here was a man who had every reason to walk away but chose to stay. You're wrong, she whispered, smiling through her tears. You're exactly what we deserve, Zhao. Le looked up from his drawing and ran over. Mama, are you crying? Is Uncle staying with us forever? Su Ning laughed and hugged her son tightly. Yes, baby, he's staying. Li Ziyan knelt down, looking at Zhaola with warmth in his eyes. If you'll let me, I'd like to be your dad too. Zhaola's face lit up. Can we eat noodles together every night? All the noodles you want, Li Ziyan said with a rare genuine smile, and in that moment, under the dim glow of the apartment lights, it didn't matter that they came from different worlds. What mattered was that they had found each other and, against all odds, they had built a family where none existed before. As the city lights twinkled outside, Su Ning realized something she never thought possible. Sometimes even the coldest hearts can learn to love again. And sometimes the strongest women are the ones who teach them how. Their story wasn't perfect, but it was theirs. And for the first time in years, Su Ning felt safe, loved, and ready to embrace the future hand in hand with the man who had once sworn off love but now couldn't imagine life without her.